The great hall of Orion Academy shimmered with pale blue light. Rows of young alien cadets sat quietly, their eyes fixed on the tall figure standing in front of them. The man was Consul Marin, a war veteran and respected instructor of the Galactic Council. His uniform carried scars of time, burn marks, torn edges, and metals that glowed faintly under the hall's lights. He looked at the cadets with calm but sharp eyes. His voice, when he finally spoke, echoed through the room like distant thunder. "There is one kind of being you must never underestimate," he said. "A creature from a place so violent that most species cannot survive a single day there." The cadets leaned forward, curious. Some whispered softly among themselves. Maron waited until the silence returned before continuing. "They are known as Deathworlders." A wave of murmurs passed through the hall. The younger cadets exchanged nervous glances. The older ones tried to hide their unease with smirks and half-laughs. Everyone had heard the stories, rumors about brutal creatures that came from planets where death was normal, worlds with burning deserts, endless storms, and hungry predators, worlds that killed the weak and hardened the strong. Consul Maron walked slowly across the room, hands behind his back. "You think you know fear," he said, his tone cold. "But you don't. You live in a galaxy protected by law, peace, and shields. They come from a planet that never knew mercy." He stopped near the hollow screen and tapped a control. The lights dimmed. A holographic image appeared, an image of a blue and green planet. It looked calm, beautiful even, but Maron's eyes were filled with warning. "This world," he said quietly, "is called Earth." Some cadets leaned forward. Others frowned. The name meant little to them. "Humans," Maron said. "They are the Deathworlders." Laughter broke out from the back rows. A Varnian cadet with shining scales raised his hand. "Sir, is this another old legend? I mean, look at them. They look so soft, so fragile." Marin's gaze turned hard. The laughter died instantly. "I once thought the same," Marin said, "until I saw one fight." He pressed another button. The hologram changed. Now it showed wrecked starships, battlefields full of fire and smoke, and alien soldiers running in panic. In the middle of the chaos stood a single human soldier, covered in dirt and blood, holding a weapon that glowed red. His face was calm, his eyes cold. "That human," Marin continued, "was the reason an entire invasion fleet turned back. Alone, he destroyed more ships than our defense fleet did in a week." Silence filled the hall. Even the air seemed heavier. Maron walked closer to the cadets. "They do not fight because they enjoy it," he said softly. "They fight because they must. Their world forces them to adapt, to endure, to never give up. A Deathworlder doesn't stop when wounded, or afraid, or outnumbered. They stop only when they win, or when they die." He paused, looking into the crowd. "And sometimes, not even death stops them." The words sent a chill down every spine. Some cadets looked uneasy now, their earlier confidence gone. One whispered, "That can't be true." But at the back of the room, one cadet sat perfectly still. His name was Ryan Sull. He was quiet, serious, and didn't talk much. The others thought he was just shy or strange. But right now, his eyes were sharp, watching Marin carefully. Every word seemed to hit something deep inside him. When Marin showed the human soldier's hologram, Ryan's hands tightened slightly. The faint scar across his knuckles caught the dim light. He tried to keep his breathing calm. "Humans are gone now," Marin said finally. "The Council has forbidden any contact with their world. Too dangerous, too unpredictable." He turned away, ending the display. The hall lights brightened again. "Remember this lesson well, cadets. The galaxy may have many threats, but never forget the Deathworlders. If you ever meet one, pray that they see you as a friend." The cadets nodded slowly, unsure if they should believe the story or not. Some whispered that the consul was trying to scare them. Others said he was just repeating old war stories. The atmosphere in the room felt heavy and strange. Then, suddenly, the sound of an alarm broke through the hall. A red light began flashing along the walls. "Alert! Unidentified ship entering planetary orbit," said the mechanical voice of the Academy's AI system. The cadets looked at each other in confusion. Maron frowned and activated his communicator. "Control room report. What kind of ship?" Static filled the room for a moment. Then a nervous voice replied, We're not sure, sir. The design doesn't match any known fleet. It's old, very old." The cadets started whispering again. Maron motioned for silence. "Stay calm," he said firmly. "Training continues." "Control, send me visual data." The holoscreen flickered to life again, showing a dark metal shape slowly orbiting the Academy's moon. The ship looked ancient, scarred, and silent. One cadet gasped. "It looks human," she whispered. Maron froze. For the first time, his calm face showed doubt. At the back of the room, Ryan Sol's eyes narrowed. He recognized that ship design instantly. His heartbeat quickened. He hadn't seen one in years, not since the day he escaped his world. "So," Ryan whispered quietly to himself, "they finally found me." No one heard him. The rest of the class was focused on the screen, waiting for Maron's orders. But Ryan was no longer listening to the lecture. His mind raced. He had trained to blend in, to act normal, to hide what he really was. But if that ship was what he thought it was, hiding was no longer an option. Maron's voice cut through the silence. "Cadets, remain in the hall. Security teams will handle this. We will continue once the situation is clear." But Ryan knew better. Security wouldn't be enough. Not for what was coming. He looked around at his classmates, at their innocent faces filled with curiosity and fear. They had no idea what kind of danger they were in. He whispered again, almost to himself, "You should have listened to your own warning, Consul Maron." And as the red lights continued to flash and the alien ship descended closer to the Academy, Rien's hand slowly moved to the small device hidden under his uniform, a relic of his true past, something he swore never to use again. The Deathworlder inside him was awake once more. The Academy grounds were no longer calm. Red emergency lights flashed through every corridor, and a deep alarm echoed like a heartbeat through the walls. Cadets rushed out of their classrooms, whispering and panicking. Some carried scanners. Others tried to peek through the windows to see what was happening in orbit. Consul Maron stood at the observation deck, watching the dark shape drifting above the moon. The strange ship hung there silently, like a ghost from another time. Its surface was burned and cracked, but it still gave off a faint blue glow from its engines. It wasn't broadcasting any signal, no ID code, no response to calls, nothing. "It's just sitting there," Maron said quietly. "Why isn't it answering?" Behind him, two senior officers worked at their consoles, scanning the ship. "Sir," one of them said, his voice shaking a little, "the hull composition is unusual. It's old, but the material is Earth-based, Terran alloy." Maron turned sharply. "Earth-based? That's impossible. Humanity's been cut off for centuries." "Yes, sir, but the readings don't lie." Maron looked back at the screen, his mind racing. Could it really be a human ship? From Earth? Down below, in the cadet dormitory section, Ryan Sol stood by the window, staring at the dark ship in the sky. His reflection on the glass looked calm, but his hands were trembling slightly. He knew that design, the Vanguard class. Only a handful had ever been built, before the Council banned Deathworld technology. Those ships weren't just machines, they were like beasts, built to survive everything. Rian whispered to himself, "How did they find me, after all these years?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. "Ryan, what are you doing here? We've been ordered to stay in the hall." It was Tellus, the young Varnian cadet who had laughed during Maron's lecture earlier. His silver scales shimmered under the red alarm light. Ryan forced a small smile. "I just needed air," he said simply. Tellus grinned nervously. "Yeah, well, whatever that thing is out there, it's not friendly. You heard the consul's warning." Ryan looked back at the ship. His eyes were distant. "Maybe he was right," he said quietly. "Maybe some warnings come too late." Meanwhile, in the command center, the sensors picked up movement. "Sir, the ship's ramp is opening." "No life signs detected?" "Wait, multiple heat signatures now appearing." Consul Marin felt a chill. "Put it on screen." The holo display zoomed in. A dark hatch opened from the ship's underbelly and a thick mist poured out, glowing faintly blue. From that mist, figures began to emerge. Tall, armored, moving in perfect coordination. They looked human, but their armor bore no insignia of any known faction. Marin clenched his fists. So the Deathworlders still walk among us. He turned to his officers. "Send a security team to the landing bay and seal the academy gates. No one gets in or out." Back in the dorm area, the ground trembled slightly. The ship had landed on the eastern field. Students screamed as the sound of metal hitting soil echoed through the air. Tellus grabbed Ryan's arm. "Come on, we have to get to the shelters." Ryan didn't move. His mind was already calculating, scanning the possibilities. He could hear the distant hum of power weapons charging. "Go ahead," he said softly. "I'll catch up." "What? Are you crazy?" Tellus shouted. "If those are Deathworlders, they'll kill everyone." Ryan's voice became cold. "Not everyone." Tellus blinked in confusion, but before he could say more, the lights flickered and went dark. The entire corridor plunged into shadows. Emergency systems failed. The air felt heavy, charged with static energy. Then came the boom, a deep shaking sound that made the walls vibrate. The invaders were inside. Ryan exhaled slowly. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metallic device, flat, round, and covered in ancient symbols. He pressed his thumb against it. The device came alive with a low hum and a faint red glow. "Guess I can't hide anymore," he muttered. The small device unfolded like petals, revealing a pulse weapon, compact but powerful. Ryan checked the charge. Full. He stepped forward, his eyes glowing faintly now. The human inside him, the Deathworlder, was waking up completely. At the same time, Consul Maron and a group of security officers entered the main hall, weapons ready. The mist was already seeping through the air ducts. It had a strange, metallic taste. Maron gave orders quickly. "Keep visual contact. Don't lose your formation." Then from the far end of the hall, a voice echoed. Low, calm, human. "Stand down. We're not here to fight." Everyone froze. The mist shifted and 3 figures stepped out. Their armor was heavy but old, scratched with marks of countless battles. Helmets covered their faces, but their movement, the way they stood, it was unmistakable. Marin stepped forward. "Identify yourself." The lead figure removed his helmet slowly. A human face stared back, pale with sharp eyes and a scar running down the left side. "I am Captain Arik Vale, Terran Vanguard Division. We come for one of our own." Marin's blood ran cold. "One of your own? That's impossible. There are no Deathworlders here." The captain's expression didn't change. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "He's been here for years, hiding." Marin's mind raced. Could it be true? Could one of his cadets really be human? Before he could respond, his comms buzzed. A panicked voice. "Sir!" Movement in the east corridor. "One cadet, human energy signature detected." Marin's heart sank. There was only one cadet missing from his list. Ryan Sol. Down in the dark corridor, Ryan moved silently. His eyes adjusted to the red emergency lights. He could hear footsteps approaching. Not the heavy steps of aliens, but the confident rhythm of trained soldiers. Humans. He stopped at the intersection, waiting. When the first soldier appeared, Ryan didn't fire. He just looked at him, calm, serious. "You shouldn't have come," Ryan said. The soldier hesitated. "Commander Sol, sir. We've been looking for you." Ryan shook his head. "That man died a long time ago." The soldier lowered his weapon slightly. "Earth needs you again. The Council's moving against us. We need every survivor." Ryan's eyes darkened. Memories flashed. Fire, screams, burning cities, and endless war. He had run from that life, hidden among aliens to escape his own people's madness. "I'm not going back," he said firmly. "Not again," the soldier sighed. "Then you'll leave us no choice." The corridor filled with silence for a moment. Then light exploded as weapons charged. The academy shook with the sound of conflict once more. In the command room, Consul Marin watched the chaos on the monitors. The truth had finally unfolded. The warning he gave was no story. It was a prophecy, and the Deathworlder he feared most had been sitting right in front of him all along. The halls of Orion Academy were filled with smoke and alarm sounds. Red lights flashed on every wall as cadets ran in panic. The once peaceful training grounds had turned into a war zone. Security teams moved through the corridors shouting orders and trying to keep order, but no one really understood what was happening. In the command center, Consul Marin stood before a flickering holodisplay. His face was pale, his voice heavy. "Confirm it again," Maron said. "You're sure the energy signature matches human readings?" The technician nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. It's not alien. It's pure Terran origin. High heart rate, heat tolerance off the charts, oxygen saturation beyond normal limits. It can only be human." Maron's breath caught. He turned toward the window, watching distant flashes of light in the Academy's east wing. "So it's true," he whispered. "A Deathworlder has been living among my cadets." He felt anger, fear, and guilt all at once. He had warned them about Deathworlders, and still failed to realize one had been sitting in his own class. Rian Sol moved carefully through the smoke-filled corridors, his mind racing. He could hear footsteps behind him, humans moving with trained precision. They weren't here to destroy. They were here for him. He pressed himself against a wall and listened. Two voices were coming closer. "Commander Sol can't be far," said one soldier. "Orders are to bring him alive. Alive if possible," the other replied coldly. "If he resists, we end it." Rian took a deep breath. He had spent years trying to forget that name, Commander Sol. He had been a soldier once, yes, one of Earth's elite defenders. But after the final war, after watching everything burn, he had walked away. He thought he could live quietly among the stars, pretending to be something else. But the past had found him again. He waited until the soldiers were just a few steps away, then stepped out silently. One quick movement, a strike to the neck, another to the shoulder. Both soldiers collapsed before they even fired. Rian sighed. "I told them not to come," he murmured. But they never listen. Back in the command room, Consul Maron's communicator buzzed with static. "Sir, this is Security Team Delta. We've got human contact near the lower labs. 2 of ours are down." Marin's eyes widened. "Send drones to assist. Do not engage directly." He turned to his assistant. "Get me a direct line to the humans' leader. I need to know why they're here." Within moments, the holoscreen flickered again, revealing Captain Arik Vale, the same human who had removed his helmet earlier. His face looked calm, but his eyes carried a tired sadness. "So," Marin said coldly, "you're the one leading this invasion." "Not an invasion," Arik replied. "A retrieval mission." "Retrieval? For what, or should I say for who?" Arik's gaze was steady. "For Rian Sol. You know him as one of your cadets. But to us, he is Commander Sol, the last surviving officer of Earth's Vanguard Division." Maron clenched his jaw. "He's a student here. He's done nothing wrong." "Wrong?" Arik's voice softened. "He abandoned his command. He left billions behind. The Council erased our world, but we survived, Marin. And we need him to help us reclaim what's ours." "You want to start another war?" Marin snapped. Arik didn't answer. He just looked tired. "We didn't come to fight you. We came to bring him home. But if you stand in the way, we'll do what we must." The screen went dark. Meanwhile, Rian reached the Academy's underground tunnels. The lights flickered, revealing long steel corridors used for maintenance and escape drills. He knew the place well. He had designed part of the Academy's defense system himself. Now he was using it to disappear. But as he turned a corner, he found Consul Marin waiting for him. Alone, weapon in hand. The two stared at each other in silence. Rian froze, his expression unreadable. "You knew," Maron said finally. "All this time. You knew what you were," Rian sighed. "I tried to forget. You deceived us. You put every cadet at risk." "No," Rian replied firmly. "I protected them. Until today. None of them even knew what a Deathworlder looked like." Marin lowered his weapon slightly, confusion in his eyes. "Then why are they here, Rian?" "Why now?" Rian hesitated. He didn't want to tell him. But the truth could no longer be hidden. "Earth is dying," he said quietly. "The last colonies are collapsing. The atmosphere is poisoned. The Council made sure of that. My people have nowhere left to go, Maron frowned. So they want revenge. No, Ryan said, shaking his head. They want survival. And they believe I can help them take it back. He looked away, his eyes dark and distant. I was one of the few who refused to fight after the war. I couldn't stand the killing anymore. So I left, I hid here among you. But they found me. Marin studied him for a long moment. If I let you go, they'll attack. If I stop you, they'll still attack. Ryan gave a faint, sad smile. That's the problem with humans, Consul. We never stop fighting, even when there's nothing left to win. The ground trembled again. The academy shook violently. Alarms screamed as explosions echoed above. The humans had broken through the first defense line. Marin grabbed his communicator. All units, evacuate the cadets immediately. Repeat, evacuate the cadets. He turned back to Ryan. If you really care about them, you'll stop this now. Ryan looked at him, conflict raging in his eyes. He had tried to live a peaceful life, but peace had never been meant for Deathworlders. He took a deep breath. I'll end it. My way. Before Marin could respond, Rian moved, fast as lightning, disappearing into the shadows of the tunnel. Outside, the night sky was filled with fire. The human dropships circled above the academy, releasing swarms of drones. Defensive cannons fired from the towers, lighting the clouds with blue energy. It was chaos. Humans versus aliens, technology versus instinct. But in the center of it all, Ryan stood alone on the field, looking up at the ship that had brought his past back to him. Captain Arek's voice echoed through a loudspeaker. Commander Sol, this is your final call. Come with us or be taken by force. Ryan's answer was calm but cold. If you came for me, Captain, then you already know how this ends. He raised his weapon, and the ground erupted with energy. The old human pulse tech he carried flared to life, brighter than the Academy's defense grid. The humans on the ship paused. Even Marin, watching from the control room, couldn't look away. The peaceful cadet they had all known was gone. What stood on that battlefield now was a Deathworlder, the kind Marin had warned them about. Strong, unbroken, unafraid. The night sky over Orion Academy burned with streaks of light. Explosions shook the ground, and the once proud towers of the Academy stood half-shattered against the storm of fire. Sirens wailed through every hallway as cadets ran for cover, their voices echoing with fear and confusion. From the observation deck, Consul Marin watched the chaos unfold. His jaw was tight, his heart pounding. He had seen many battles in his lifetime, but never one like this. Status report, Marin shouted. A trembling officer responded. The eastern field is lost. Human troops are advancing. We're losing shield control. Marin slammed his fist against the console. Hold the line. Protect the cadets. The humans can't take this world. But deep inside, he wasn't sure anymore. The power of these Deathworlders was beyond anything the Council had warned about. They fought like demons, fast, precise, and utterly fearless. On the battlefield, Ryan Sol stood in the middle of smoke and flame. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with ash, but his eyes burned with determination. Around him, alien soldiers and human marines fought in brutal close combat. The air was thick with dust, laser fire, and the smell of burned metal. He watched a human squad push forward, using coordinated tactics that only Earth soldiers knew. Each movement was efficient, deadly. It reminded him of his past, of the battles he had once led. You should have stayed away, Ryan muttered. He raised his weapon, and the small pulse cannon on his wrist hummed with red energy. When he fired, the blast cut through the air like a thunderclap, throwing soldiers off their feet and sending waves of dust rolling across the ground. A nearby alien cadet stared at him in disbelief. Ryan, what are you? She whispered. He didn't answer. There was no time to explain, and no easy truth to tell. In the command ship hovering above, Captain Arik Vale watched through tactical screens. He's resisting us, one officer said. He's attacking both sides. Arik narrowed his eyes. No, he's not attacking. He's protecting. The officer looked confused. Protecting who, sir? Everyone, Arik said quietly. That's who Ryan always was. He turned toward the bridge window. Prepare Ground Team 2. If he won't come willingly, we'll have to show him what's at stake. Back on the ground, Ryan moved through smoke like a shadow. He used every bit of his Deathworlder training. Speed, precision, instinct. He disarmed 2 human Marines, knocking them unconscious instead of killing them. He wasn't here to destroy. He wanted to end the fight. He found Tellus, the young Varnian cadet, hiding behind a collapsed wall, his arm bleeding. "You're still alive," Ryan said softly. Tellus looked up, terrified and confused. "Ryan, you're one of them." Ryan kneeled beside him, tearing a piece of cloth to wrap his wound. "It doesn't matter what I am. Right now, we survive. Together." Tellus's eyes were full of fear, but also trust. "Then why are your people doing this?" Ryan hesitated, his voice low. "Because they believe the galaxy left us to die. Because they're desperate. But this war won't save anyone," Tellus gritted his teeth. "Then stop them." Ryan looked toward the burning sky. "I intend to." In the control tower, Marin's officers were shouting updates. "They're surrounding the main power core. We can't hold them much longer." Maron looked at the holomap. The human forces were closing in from all directions. If they reached the power core, the Academy's defense grid would fail completely. Then a sudden signal flashed on his screen, a live feed from a field camera. It showed Ryan, standing alone in the open, facing the advancing human soldiers. Maron's eyes widened. "He's no protecting the core." On the battlefield, the wind howled through the broken towers. Ryan stood on a ridge of scorched ground, his weapon glowing in his hand. Across from him, Captain Arik and his troops approached slowly, weapons raised but not firing. Arik's voice carried through the comms. "You can't stop this, Ryan. The Council destroyed our world. They'll destroy this one too if we don't act," Ryan shouted back. "And killing innocent cadets will change that? You think more blood will bring peace?" Arik's expression hardened. "Peace died with Earth. All that's left is survival." Ryan shook his head. "No, there's always a choice." He raised his pulse weapon again, but this time he aimed not at the soldiers but at the sky. He fired a warning shot, sending a shockwave that rippled through the battlefield, forcing everyone to pause. "You want me, Captain?" Ryan said, his voice steady. "Then end this. I'll come with you, but you leave them out of it." Arik hesitated. His soldiers looked uncertain. "You'd surrender yourself?" he asked. "If it stops this war," Ryan replied. The silence that followed was heavy. Only the sound of crackling fire and distant explosions filled the air. Then Arik gave a slow nod. "Stand down," he ordered his troops. "Cease fire." The humans lowered their weapons, but the alien forces didn't. Marin's command echoed in the earpieces of his soldiers. "Do not trust them. They're using him." Rian turned toward the Academy Tower, where Maron stood watching. His voice carried through the comms. "Consul Marin, I'm ending this. Don't let your people die for a misunderstanding." Maron hesitated. His hand hovered over the control for the defense cannons. He wanted to trust Rian, but fear was louder than reason. At last, Marin whispered, "All units, hold fire." The battlefield fell silent. Humans and aliens stood across from each other in tense stillness, smoke curling between them. Arik stepped forward slowly. "We'll take you home, Commander." Ryan didn't move. "Earth isn't my home anymore," he said. "But if my surrender keeps these cadets alive, I'll go." He looked back one last time, at the Academy, at Tellus, at the faces of the young cadets watching him from behind broken walls. He gave them a faint smile. "Remember this," he said softly. "Human or alien, survival means nothing without mercy." Arik signaled his men. They surrounded Rian, activating their transport beacon. A column of blue light began to rise around them, but as they started to ascend, a loud warning alarm blared again. Marin's officer shouted, "Sir, the power core is unstable. Something's wrong." Marin looked at the readings. The humans' landing damaged the energy grid. The core was overheating. If it exploded, it would destroy the entire Academy. Everyone, human and alien alike. "Ryan!" Maron shouted into the comms. "The core is going to blow." The blue light around Ryan flickered. He turned sharply. "What?" "You have 3 minutes before the entire complex goes critical." Ryan's eyes widened. He looked at Arik. "If that core detonates, we all die," Arik cursed. "Then we fix it, fast." Ryan nodded, his resolve returning. "No, I'll fix it." And before anyone could stop him, he broke free from the transport beam and sprinted back toward the burning Academy. Smoke and fire filled the air as Ryan Saul sprinted through the shattered corridors of Orion Academy. The alarms screamed in every direction, red lights flashing like angry stars. Each step echoed against the steel walls as the ground trembled beneath his boots. Behind him, the sky burned orange, the battlefield silent now, both sides watching in disbelief. He was running into the danger, not away from it. Consul Marin shouted through the comms, his voice shaking. "Ryan! The energy core is collapsing. You won't make it in time." Ryan replied between heavy breaths. "I have to try. If it detonates, everyone dies, humans and aliens both." He leaped over fallen beams, ducking under a sparking pipe as flames burst from the walls. The academy that once trained cadets for peace was now a graveyard of broken machinery and burning memories. At last, he reached the heavy blast doors of the power core chamber. They were half-melted, glowing red-hot. "Manual override," he shouted. The access screen flickered. "Temperature critical. Radiation levels rising. Evacuation advised." Ryan slammed his fist against the panel. Sparks flew. "Override code Delta 17 Reinsol." The system hesitated, scanned his face, then beeped weakly. The doors groaned open, releasing a wave of scorching heat that hit him like a wall. Inside, the chamber looked like the heart of a dying sun. The energy core, a sphere of blinding blue plasma, pulsed violently at the center of the room. Thick cables hung loose, some melting, others sparking uncontrollably. Ryan shielded his eyes. Sweat ran down his face, and the floor vibrated under his boots. He pulled a small device from his belt, a field stabilizer. Wasn't built for something this massive, but it was all he had. "Okay," he muttered. "Let's dance." He climbed the maintenance platform, sparks flying around him like tiny comets. The hum of the core grew louder, like a giant heartbeat speeding toward collapse. Outside, Captain Arik Vale and his troops watched the academy from their ship. "He's inside the power core chamber?" Arik asked. Marin's voice came through the comms. "Yes, he's trying to stabilize it manually. If he fails, the explosion will destroy everything within 10 miles. Arik clenched his jaw. That fool. Always trying to save everyone. A silence hung over the bridge. Even the alien officers who had once feared Ryan now looked at the burning structure with worry and awe. Back inside, Ryan was fighting against time. The control systems were overloaded, and energy readings spiked higher every second. He connected the stabilizer to the main conduit, sparks exploding from the junction. "Come on, come on," he gritted through his teeth. The system's robotic voice echoed. "Critical overload in 60 seconds. Ryan's vision blurred from the heat. His hands shook as he rewired the final link, his fingers burning on the hot metal. The stabilizer pulsed weakly, then glowed brighter. The trembling of the core began to slow, just slightly. "Almost there," he whispered. Then a loud crack echoed through the chamber. A beam of plasma shot from the core, slicing through the upper platform. The shockwave threw Ryan off his feet. He hit the ground hard, rolling near the edge of the reactor pit. He groaned, forcing himself up. His arm was bleeding, his body trembling. But he didn't stop. He crawled toward the control console, half broken and sparking. The screen flickered with one last message. "Manual containment possible. User life force required for calibration." Ryan stared at it, disbelief in his eyes. The system was demanding a biometric sacrifice, a life to balance the overload. He gave a bitter smile. Figures. Always comes down to this. Outside, Moran's sensors detected something strange. "Wait," he said, eyes wide. "The system's asking for a biolink. He's going to use himself as the stabilizer." Arik's voice turned sharp. "Stop him. That's suicide." "We can't," Moran shouted. "He locked us out of the system." They could only watch as the energy readings climbed higher, and Ryan's signal inside the core began to flicker. Inside the chamber, Ryan placed his hand on the console. The light from the core painted his face in blue and gold. He could feel its power vibrating through his bones, its rage and energy like a storm begging to be unleashed. He closed his eyes for a moment. Images flashed through his mind. The cadets laughing in class, Tellus saluting nervously, Moran lecturing about Deathworlders, and Arik standing beside him in old battles. So much life. So much hope. He couldn't let it all end here. "If this is the price of peace," he whispered, "then I'll pay it." He pressed his palm to the console. The system accepted the link. The energy surged through him like lightning. His body convulsed as waves of power poured into his veins. The stabilizer lit up brighter than ever before, its glow spreading through the cables, into the walls, into the entire academy. Rian screamed, but didn't pull away. The power core's violent pulse began to steady, its blue flames calming into a steady rhythm. Outside, the light burst from the academy's windows, shooting upward into the night sky like a beacon. Maron stared at the readings. Stabilization successful. "He did it," Aric's voice was hollow. "What about Ryan?" There was silence. Then Maron said softly, "His life signs are gone." The entire battlefield went quiet. The humans lowered their weapons. The aliens stood still. The war, the chaos, all of it stopped for one shared heartbeat. Inside the power core chamber, the light dimmed. The storm was over. In the center, surrounded by glowing cables and smoke, Ryan knelt silently. The console still hummed under his hand. His body didn't move, but his face looked peaceful, as if he was finally free. Hours later, rescue teams entered the ruins. Tellus was among them, his arm still bandaged. He saw Ryan's still figure at the core, bathed in the faint blue glow. Tellus whispered through tears, "He saved us. All of us." He saluted quietly, his voice breaking. "Goodbye, Commander." The battlefield of Orion Academy had gone silent. Smoke still rose from the ruined towers, and the scent of metal and fire hung heavy in the air. But the war was over. The power core was stable again, and Ryan Sol was gone. For the first time in years, there was peace, bought with one man's life. Consul Maron stood among the wreckage, his uniform torn and face streaked with soot. He stared at the collapsed entrance of the core chamber where Ryan had vanished. Around him, both human Marines and alien cadets worked side by side to clear debris, something no one would have imagined just a day ago. Captain Auric Vale approached quietly. His expression was hard, but his eyes were heavy with guilt. "We searched the lower tunnels," Auric said. "There's nothing left, just melted circuits and burned stone." Marin's gaze didn't move. "You said he was your commander once." "He was more than that," Auric replied softly. "He was the reason we survived the first Deathworld campaigns. He believed mercy could win where violence couldn't." Maron exhaled slowly. "And yet he died saving the ones who feared him most." They stood in silence for a long time. Then Marin said almost to himself, "Maybe. That's what makes humans so dangerous. Not their strength, but their hearts." Far below the academy, in the core chamber, the air shimmered with faint light. The stabilizer still pulsed weakly, like a dying heartbeat. And then, for a brief second, a spark flickered from Ryan's chest. The sensors, long dead, began to whisper again. Energy readings rose slowly. Something inside the core was waking up. Tellus, the young cadet, couldn't sleep that night. He sat near the wreckage staring at the sky. The stars above Orion seemed brighter, as if watching silently. He turned to Marin and said quietly, "Sir, what if he's still alive?" Marin looked at him with tired eyes. "No one could survive that radiation, Tellus, even a Deathworlder." Tellus nodded, but he didn't look convinced. He had seen something in Rian's eyes before the explosion. Not fear, not pain, but peace. And deep inside, he felt that peace couldn't end in fire. 3 days passed. Teams began rebuilding the academy. Humans and aliens worked together now. A strange, uneasy alliance born from sacrifice. In the ruins of the power core, a group of engineers worked to dismantle the damaged stabilizer. But as one of them touched the central console, a shockwave of blue light burst through the chamber. The workers screamed and stumbled back. The air filled with static, and a deep hum rolled through the metal walls. The same sound Ryan's weapon used to make when charged. Then a faint voice came through the comm network, glitching through static. "This is Commander Sol." Marin froze when he heard it. "What, repeat that?" "Ryan Sol. Reporting. Containment? Stable?" The voice faded again, replaced by silence, but the signal was real. He was alive. Hours later, a recovery team was sent into the lower core. They moved cautiously, lights cutting through the smoke and shadows. And there, among the scorched floor and glowing wires, they found a body. It was Ryan, barely breathing. His armor fused with the stabilizer harness, his skin faintly glowing with blue energy. His heartbeat was slow but steady. The medics moved fast. "We have a pulse. Get him out now." They lifted him onto a hover stretcher, the glow from his veins flickering like starlight. Marin and Arik rushed to the medical bay as the team brought him in. When Ryan opened his eyes, the world was blurry. White lights above him, the soft hum of machines. He tried to move, but pain spread through every muscle. Marin's face came into focus beside him. "Easy, Commander. You're safe," Ryan blinked. "The core. Did it hold?" "It did," Maron said quietly. "You saved everyone." Ryan gave a weak smile. "Good. Then it was worth it." Arik stepped forward. His voice was rough. "You're a damn fool, Rian. You always have been. And yet you're still alive to say that," Rian murmured. Arik's frown broke into a small, tired grin. "Yeah, I guess I am." But as Marin looked closer, he noticed something strange. The blue glow under Rian's skin wasn't fading. It was growing. Energy readings from the monitor spiked. "His vitals are unstable," the medic said. "His cells are adapting." "Adapting," Arik repeated. "He's absorbing the reactor energy," Marin said, eyes wide. "It's rewriting his DNA." Ryan looked down at his hands, where faint blue light flickered like lightning beneath his skin. "So this is what comes after death," he whispered. The medic stepped back. "He's becoming something else." That night, Ryan sat alone in the observation deck, wrapped in a gray blanket. Outside the window, Orion's twin moons hung over the horizon. The war was over, but his heart felt heavier than ever. Tellus walked in quietly. "You should rest," he said. Ryan smiled faintly. "Deathworlders don't rest easily." Tellus hesitated, then asked, "What are you now?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He looked at his glowing hand, something between man and machine. Between life and energy. Maybe a warning. Or a bridge, Tellus frowned. "A bridge?" "Between our worlds," Ryan said. "So this doesn't happen again." He turned toward the stars. "Because if humans and aliens keep fighting, there won't be anyone left to win." Later that night, Marin sent a report to the Galactic Consil. His final words were simple. "The Deathworlder did not die. He became the very force that saved us. Perhaps humanity was never meant to destroy, but to remind us all what survival truly means." Far away, deep in the silent ruins, the stabilizer still pulsed faintly, not as a weapon, but as a heartbeat. The heartbeat of the man who had walked between worlds and returned, the echo of a Deathworlder. The Galactic Council Hall had never been so silent. It was built on the space station Varel Prime, a ring of light orbiting a dying star, the heart of the galaxy's politics and pride. Now, all its members sat in tense silence as the great doors opened. 2 guards stepped aside. From the shadows, a tall figure walked in, Ryan Sol, the Deathworlder who had died and returned. His uniform was gone, replaced by a dark exosuit designed to contain the strange blue energy glowing beneath his skin. Every step he took left faint ripples of light on the metal floor. Whispers spread through the chamber. "He survived the core explosion?" "Impossible. That's not a man, that's a weapon." At the center of the hall, Consul Maron stood beside Captain Arik Vale and Cadet Tellus, all invited to testify. Marin's voice was calm, but his heart raced. "Counselors, this is Commander Ryan Sol of Earth, the man who prevented the destruction of Orion Academy." The head counselor, a tall being of silver skin and cold eyes, leaned forward. "Commander Sol, you have become something unnatural. The energy within you is unstable. You are a threat to the galaxy." Ryan met his gaze without fear. "I was always a threat because I was human." A wave of murmurs filled the room. Maron winced. Arik smirked quietly. Ryan stepped into the center of the chamber. "You call my kind Deathworlders. You tell stories of our brutality. You use our name to scare your children." He paused, his glowing eyes sweeping across the hall. "But you forget what made us strong. It wasn't rage. It was endurance. The will to live when no one else could." The counselors exchanged nervous looks. "On my world," Ryan continued, "we learned to survive storms that could burn flesh and darkness that could freeze blood. We learned to fight, not to conquer. But because every day was a battle just to exist." His voice grew softer. You fear humans because we remind you what you've forgotten, that peace is fragile and life is earned. One of the alien counselors stood. Your existence now breaks the balance. You carry energy from the core, power that could destroy planets. Why should we trust you? Ryan looked down at his glowing hands. Because I've already destroyed once, and I don't want to do it again. The room went silent. Morong stepped forward, his voice firm. The humans and the Academy cadets fought together after the explosion. Ryan's sacrifice united them. For the first time in history, they chose peace. He turned toward the council. If you destroy him, you destroy that hope, the counselors whispered among themselves. Ryan stood still, waiting, calm, patient. He didn't come to beg for life. He came to prove what it meant to be human. Suddenly, the station shook. Alarms blared through the chamber. A voice echoed through the comms. Unknown ships approaching. Heavy energy signatures. It's the outcast fleet. Panic spread instantly. The outcasts were the broken remnants of old empires, mercenaries who thrived in chaos. The counselors shouted orders, their guards running in confusion. Ryan turned to Marin. Evacuate the lower levels. Get the cadets to safety. Marin nodded, already moving. Arik looked at Ryan, eyes narrowing. You're not thinking of fighting again, are you? Ryan gave a faint grin. Seems it's all I ever do. Minutes later, outside the station, the darkness of space lit up with fire. The outcast fleet, dozens of warships, surrounded Varel Prime, their weapons glowing red. Inside the defense control room, chaos reigned. The Council's forces were unprepared, shields flickering under the first wave of plasma fire. Ryan entered the room, his glowing hands crackling with energy. Power the cannons. I'll handle the shield. The technician stared in disbelief. You'll burn yourself out. Maybe, Ryan said. But if the galaxy ends today, I want to be the one standing between it and the fire. He placed his hands on the main energy conduit. The lights across the station flickered and then surged. Blue lightning spread through the cables as Ryan poured his core energy into the defense grid. Outside, the shield brightened, growing stronger, expanding. The outcast ships opened fire again, but the blasts bounced off harmlessly. He's doing it, Marin said from the command deck. He's turning himself into the shield. Inside, pain shot through Ryan's body. His veins burned with light, his heartbeat matching the pulse of the energy field. He felt the station's life, its people, its fear, all of it flowing through him. For a moment, he wasn't just Rian's soul. He was something larger, a bridge between machine and man, between life and light. His voice echoed through the comms, calm but strong. You wanted to know what humanity really is? Watch closely. He opened his eyes, and the entire sky lit up. A surge of blue light burst from the station, spreading like wings across the void. The outcast ships were pushed back by the wave of energy, their weapons failing, engines burning out. In seconds, the fleet was disabled, floating helplessly in space. The war was over before it began. When the light faded, Ryan collapsed to his knees. Smoke rose from his suit, his skin pale, the glow fading. Arik and Maran ran to him as medics rushed in. Ryan, stay with us. Rian smiled weakly, his voice barely a whisper. Looks like the galaxy's safe again, Marin's voice cracked. You can't keep sacrificing yourself like this. Ryan looked up at him. That's what humans do, Marin. We burn bright, so others can see the way. His hand dropped and the monitors went flat. For a long moment, no one moved. The galaxy's greatest warrior, the Deathworlder who became a legend, had fallen once more. Days later, the council met again. This time, the chamber was different. Humans stood beside aliens as equals. Maron addressed the assembly. Commander Rian's soul gave everything to protect us. Not as a soldier, not as a Deathworlder, but as a human. He showed us that fear cannot lead, only unity can. The council voted that day to create a new alliance, the Orion Pact, uniting human and alien worlds under one promise: never again shall fear rule the stars. Weeks passed. At the edge of the galaxy, near the ruins of Orion Academy, a small beacon pulsed quietly among the stars. The same blue light that once shone from Ryan's heart, and somewhere beyond that light, drifting through the endless void, A faint voice whispered through static. "This is Ryan Soul. Mission status. Ongoing.